Samurai cinema isn't just a Japanese treasure. It's the secret backbone of Hollywood's coolest westerns. Before Clint Eastwood ever squinted into a blood-red sunset, Japanese swordsmen were rewriting the rules of badassery on screen. But what happens when East meets West, and samurai code collides with cowboy law? Are you ready to see which films truly slice through the heart of Western directors? Saddle up and sharpen your blade. Some of these titles might just change how you see your favorite Westerns forever. Yojimbo, 1961. If there's a film that proved one Ronin could change the world, and cinema history, it's Yojimbo. Forget dusty saloons. Here's a windblown Japanese town torn apart by rival gangs, with only a wandering swordsman standing between chaos and order. Toshiro Mifune struts into the story like a silent storm, equal parts scruffy charm and lethal intent. Kurosawa doesn't just direct, he orchestrates tension, humor, and violence in a way that leaves your jaw somewhere near your sandals. But Yojimbo's legacy didn't stop at the Japanese border. Sergio Leone saw Kurosawa's trickster hero and thought, what if a gun replaced the sword? A Fistful of Dollars was born, almost shot for shot, launching the spaghetti Western revolution and turning Clint Eastwood into an icon. Kurosawa's kinetic camera work, morally gray protagonist, and sly humor set a template that would echo in every Western antihero and every windswept showdown from Italy to Hollywood. And don't even get us started on the soundtrack. If you ever thought Ennio Morricone was original, well, Kurosawa had the moody stingers first. Yojimbo didn't just inspire, it detonated a creative arms race. Directors everywhere realized the lone, unpredictable hero was a story engine that never ran out of gas. If you watch just one samurai movie before your next cowboy marathon, make it this one. Sanjuro 1962. What do you do after you've redefined cool with Yojimbo? You double down and get even sharper. That's exactly what Kurosawa did with Sanjuro, transforming Mifune's unnamed swordsman into a reluctant mentor surrounded by bumbling samurai with more ideals than brains. Suddenly, the lone wolf finds himself herding sheep, and it's every bit as entertaining as it sounds. Sanjuro is where Kurosawa lets loose, fusing comedy with razor-edge suspense. The film's pacing is relentless, but every moment has meaning, and the bursts of violence, especially the legendary final duel, are shocking, visceral, and unforgettable. Hollywood's best directors studied those fight scenes, learning how to blend tension and release in a way that keeps audiences gasping. You can almost hear Tarantino scribbling notes from the front row. But beyond the blood and the gags, Sanjuro offered Western filmmakers something more. The antihero who teaches, fights, and still never fully fits in. He's not the mythic gunslinger, nor the noble samurai. He's something in between. That ambiguity, that sense of being caught between worlds, would haunt Westerns from The Magnificent Seven to Unforgiven. In short, Sanjuro is a masterclass in style, wit, and action. It's the missing link between the disciplined honor of the samurai and the hard-bitten individualism of the cowboy. And, yeah, you'll never see a room full of flowers the same way again. Harakiri, 1962. Harakiri is a gut punch disguised as an elegant period piece. Forget what you think you know about samurai films. Kobayashi flips the code of Bushido on its head, exposing the hypocrisy and cruelty hidden behind all that honor. Tatsuya Nakadai delivers a performance so haunting, you'll swear the air gets colder every time he steps on screen. The story: a wandering Ronin arrives at a powerful clan's gate, requesting the ritual suicide known as harakiri. But what unfolds isn't the expected tale of stoic sacrifice. It's a slow-burn revenge thriller, a savage critique of tradition, and a meditation on dignity versus despair. No Hollywood Western ever dared to go this dark, this honest, this furious. At least, not until directors like Sam Peckinpah and Clint Eastwood took notes. Visually, Harakiri is a lesson in stark, poetic storytelling. Each frame feels carved from stone, every silence loaded with threat. The duels are brief, brutal, and grounded in realism. Gone is the ballet, in comes the meat and bone of actual violence. Western directors were transfixed. Here was a new kind of moral ambiguity, a new way to question the myth of the hero. Harakiri didn't just inspire, it unsettled, and in doing so, it changed the conversation. If you want a samurai film that challenges everything you thought you admired about the code, this is the one. Don't be surprised if you find yourself questioning who the real villains are, both in feudal Japan and the Wild West. Samurai Rebellion, 1967. You want to talk about rebellion? Kobayashi's Samurai Rebellion is less a film and more a howl of defiance, directed with the fury of someone who's had enough of taking orders from above. Once again, Tatsuya Nakadai teams up with screen legend Toshiro Mifune, and together they turn a simple domestic drama into a full-scale war on injustice. Set in a rigid world where the word of a lord is law, the story unravels the tragedy that ensues when a samurai is forced to break the code for the sake of his family. Instead of blind obedience, Samurai Rebellion champions the ordinary man's courage to resist, even if the cost is everything. Sound familiar? Hollywood directors thought so too. This film's DNA is all over every Western where the outlaw stands up for what's right, from High Noon to Shane. But Kobayashi isn't content with easy answers. Every sword drawn in this film cuts deeper into family, loyalty, love, and loss. The action, when it comes, is swift and searing, but the real battle is for the soul. For Western filmmakers, this was a revelation, that true heroism sometimes means saying no, standing up, and fighting the system, not just the bad guys. With an ending that hits like a freight train and performances that burn with intensity, Samurai Rebellion doesn't just make you root for the underdog. It makes you question who's really in charge. If you ever wondered where the spirit of the classic Western rebel came from, look no further. The Sword of Doom, 1966. Unleash your inner darkness. Because the Sword of Doom doesn't just flirt with evil, it hands it a katana and lets it loose. Ryunosuke, played with icy brilliance by Tatsuya Nakadai, isn't your typical tragic hero. He's a remorseless killer, cutting his way through feudal Japan with nihilistic glee. Forget redemption arcs. This is a descent into pure, existential nightmare. Director Keihachi Okamoto loads every frame with dread, turning wide-open landscapes into claustrophobic traps. There's an almost supernatural chill to the violence, stylized but never cartoonish. Each duel feels like the last heartbeat before Judgment Day. And if you think Hollywood wasn't paying attention, think again. Every unhinged Western anti-hero, from Lee Van Cleef to the Man in Black, owes a debt to Nakadai's unstoppable force of nature. But the Sword of Doom isn't just a showcase of cool kills. It's a meditation on evil, fate, and the emptiness at the heart of power. Western directors took these cues, crafting characters haunted by their own legend, stalked by the ghosts of what they'd done. Even the iconic shootouts of the spaghetti westerns echo with the same fatalism that drips from every frame of Okamoto's masterpiece. By the time the film's infamous final sequence hits, bloody, chaotic, unresolved, you realize the Sword of Doom is less a story and more a curse. Watch it, and you'll never look at the Western anti-hero the same way again. 13 Assassins, 1963. Talk about a bloodbath with brains. 13 Assassins doesn't just crank up the action, it detonates it. Imagine if the Dirty Dozen swapped their machine guns for katanas and decided to take on a villain so rotten you're rooting for carnage. Ichi Kudo's breakthrough film rounds up a ragtag group of samurai, each with their own scars, and gives them an impossible suicide mission. Stop a sadistic lord before he plunges Japan into chaos. Here's the twist. Kudo isn't interested in perfect heroes. These samurai are tired, flawed, even desperate. The planning and politics are as suspenseful as the swordplay, because failure means not just death, but dishonor. When the final battle erupts, it's 20 minutes of pure cinematic adrenaline. Rain, fire, mud, and steel. It's a set piece that would make any Hollywood action director sweat bullets. You see the DNA of 13 Assassins in everything, from the Wild Bunch to the Magnificent Seven remake, right down to the last man standing. What really sets 13 Assassins apart is its sense of inevitability. There are no miracles, just sacrifice and sheer willpower. Kudo's camera isn't afraid to linger on the aftermath, the bodies, the silence, the cost. Western directors ate this up, translating the film's bleak courage into their own tales of noble bloodbaths. If you ever wanted to know where The Last Stand legend truly comes alive, it's right here, in the mud and fury of 13 Assassins. Zatoichi and the Chest of Gold, 1964. Who says the coolest heroes need to see where they're going? Enter Zatoichi, the blind swordsman who slices, dices, and outsmarts every thug who ever doubted him. By 1964, Zatoichi was already a pop culture juggernaut. But Zatoichi and the Chest of Gold is where he truly became immortal. Think of it as the samurai answer to James Bond. Wit, swagger, and an arsenal of tricks hidden behind that unassuming cane. This entry in the long-running series has Zatoichi caught in a web of greed and betrayal, hunted for a fortune he never wanted. What makes the film stand out, aside from a title that sounds like a lost Indiana Jones movie, is the way it blends folk hero myth with raw, street-level grit. Ikehiro's direction is fast, fun, and laced with a touch of the psychedelic, eye-popping colors, and jazzy music that would inspire everything from westerns to Tarantino's later homages. But here's the secret sauce. Zatoichi fights dirty, but always for justice. He's the gunslinger who plays by his own rules, a template Western directors borrowed for countless man-with-no-name drifters. Every quick-draw showdown, every clever escape, every smirk, they all started here, with a blind swordsman who never misses. Chest of Gold proves that sometimes the sharpest eyes in the room are the ones that don't need to see it all. Zatoichi's Cane Sword, 1967. If there's one Zatoichi film Western directors should study frame by frame, it's Zatoichi's Cane Sword. This isn't just another episode in the Blind Swordsman saga. It's a masterclass in suspense, character, and what I like to call weapon mythology. Imagine if Dirty Harry's Abyss. Magnum had a secret backstory, and you're halfway to what this film delivers. The plot kicks off when Zatoichi discovers that his trusted cane sword is dangerously close to breaking. Suddenly, every fight is a gamble. Can he outwit his enemies before his greatest weapon fails? The tension is off the charts. Yasuda plays with the audience's nerves, stretching out each confrontation until you're gripping your seat. And when that blade finally flashes, it's as satisfying as any gunshot echoing across a western desert. But it's not just about the swordplay. Cane Sword digs into themes of mortality, aging, and the fear that your best days are behind you. Heavy stuff for any genre. Western filmmakers picked up on this vulnerability, giving us outlaws and sheriffs who weren't just invincible, but haunted by their own fading legends. The result? Characters you care about, not just because they're cool, but because they're real. In the end, Zatoichi's Cane Sword isn't just a great samurai film. It's a blueprint for every story about a hero facing the twilight of his powers and rising to the occasion anyway. Samurai Assassin, 1965. It's all in the title. Samurai Assassin is as relentless as it sounds. But don't let the bloodthirsty name fool you. Okamoto's film is a swirling tornado of intrigue, paranoia, and psychological breakdown. Toshiro Mifune stars as Nero, a masterless samurai so desperate for purpose he'll kill for a cause he barely understands. The result? A story as sharp and unpredictable as the blade at its center. Set against the political chaos of 19th century Japan, the film throws you into a world where loyalty is currency, and betrayal comes at every corner. Okamoto's camera style is all quick cuts and ominous close-ups, the tension ratcheting higher with every plot twist. When the violence finally explodes, it's sudden, messy, and deeply personal. Nothing sanitized or heroic about it. Western directors loved this messiness. You see echoes of Samurai Assassin in every Western, where the hero is more dangerous than the villains he faces, where motives are muddy and redemption is just out of reach. Mifune's tortured performance, his simmering rage and confusion, gave later actors permission to go deeper, to play cowboys as broken men instead of cardboard cutouts. In the end, Samurai Assassin isn't just a tale of violence. It's a meditation on obsession, loyalty, and the kind of sacrifice that leaves no one clean. If you want to know where the anti-hero really sharpened his teeth, you start right here. Sleepy Eyes of Death, The Chinese Jade. If Zatoichi is the soul of populist samurai cinema, Nemuri Kyoshiro, The Sleepy Eyes of Death, is its devilish Ed. In The Chinese Jade, Raizo Ichikawa plays a hero who's equal parts charming, ruthless, and haunted. He's got the swagger of James Bond, the sword skills of a demon, and the existential boredom of a rock star on a bad day. The story: Kyoshiro is hired to protect a mysterious jade, but nothing is ever straightforward in his world. Double crosses, seductions, and philosophical debates follow. Ikahiro's direction is cool, kinetic, and slyly subversive. The action is slick, the visuals lush, but it's Kyoshiro's nihilistic worldview that leaves a mark. He's a samurai who doesn't believe in honor. He's just too good at surviving. Western directors took notes. The reluctant hero who doesn't care about the rules, but somehow does the right thing anyway. That's Sleepy Eyes of Death, years before Eastwood's Man with No Name or Bronson's Harmonica Man. Even the film's playful attitude toward genre, blending mystery, action, and pitch-black humor, became a hallmark of postmodern westerns decades later. The Chinese Jade is more than pulp. It's a wild, stylish ride that refuses to play by the old samurai rulebook. If you crave your heroes with a shot of cynicism and your showdowns with extra flair, this is the film for you. The Betrayal, 1966. Betrayal cuts deeper than any sword, and Shinoda's aptly named film slices straight to the bone. The Betrayal takes the classic samurai dilemma and twists it into a noir-soaked fever dream, where loyalty is a trap and trust is the deadliest gamble. Starring the stoic but combustible Tetsuro Tamba, the story throws us into a labyrinth of shifting alliances, political backstabbing, and the chilling realization that sometimes your deadliest enemy wears a friendly face. Shinoda's direction is pure cinematic seduction. He shoots in shadow and fog, with characters slipping in and out of the darkness like ghosts. Every frame crackles with tension. Every whisper could be a death sentence. You don't get clean heroes here, just desperate men trying to survive in a world built on lies. For Western directors used to white-hat cowboys and clear-cut morals, this was a lightning strike. Suddenly, the line between good and evil was blurred beyond recognition. What makes The Betrayal a secret weapon in the samurai canon is its atmosphere. It's a thriller, a tragedy, and a meditation on how systems, feudal or frontier, always demand a price. The film's sense of doom, where victory feels like just another form of loss, was eagerly borrowed by Western filmmakers from Peckinpah to Eastwood. If you ever wondered where the nobody wins endings of revisionist Westerns come from, look here. Shinoda's lesson: in a world built on betrayal, even the sharpest blade can't save you. Kill. 1968. If you thought samurai films had to be somber, think again. Kill is what happens when someone spikes your favorite jitageki with a double shot of black comedy and then runs it through a Sergio Leone filter. Kihachi Okamoto, already famous for his razor-sharp thrillers, turns the genre on its head with this wild, satirical riff on Seven Samurai and Yojimbo. Imagine a samurai movie where everyone's motives are suspect, and the only thing sharper than the swords is the wit. The plot: two down-and-out drifters, a cynical ex-samurai and a brawny, clueless farmer, get tangled up in a small-town conspiracy filled with treacherous retainers and double-dealing bandits. As they stumble from one absurd scrape to the next, the film lampoons Bushido, feudal politics, and even samurai movie conventions themselves. But don't let the laughs fool you. When the swords come out, Okamoto's choreography is as brutal and balletic as ever. For Western directors, Kill was a revelation. Here was proof that the hero with no plan could still upend a corrupt system, often by accident. Its mix of violence, satire, and existential humor would echo in everything from Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid to the later films of Quentin Tarantino. Even the film's title is a punchline, a dare, a warning, and a wink all at once. Kill is an adrenaline shot of mischief and mayhem. A samurai film that doesn't just break the rules, it throws them out the window. Revenge, 1964. Revenge is a dish best served cold. Or, if you're Tadashi Imai, ice cold and laced with existential dread. Revenge isn't about the glory of the kill. It's about the poison of holding on to hate and the crushing machinery of tradition that turns victims into villains and heroes into ghosts. If you ever thought a samurai's greatest enemy was the swordsman across from him, Imai is here to tell you it's the system itself. The story orbits around a young samurai forced to kill a colleague in a rigged duel, only to be haunted by the ripple effects, guilt, suspicion, and the relentless pressure to avenge in the name of family honor. The film is a slow burn, loaded with simmering tension and icy politeness that hides a festering rot. Imai's camera lingers on silent suffering and small cruelties, making the violence, when it comes, all the more shocking. Western directors saw in Revenge a blueprint for psychological depth. This isn't just a story about a man with a mission. It's a warning that cycles of violence destroy more than they heal. You see echoes of revenge in revisionist westerns, where the consequences of bloodshed ripple across families and entire towns. If you're tired of clean, simple vengeance and want to see the real cost, this film delivers quietly, devastatingly, and with the kind of gravitas Hollywood rarely matches. 3 Outlaw Samurai, 1964. Ever wonder where the outlaw trio in so many westerns got their groove? Look no further than Hideo Gosha's blisteringly cool 3 Outlaw Samurai. Before Tarantino ever assembled a gang of misfits, or Leone sent 3 gunslingers after the same gold, Gosha was crafting a lean, mean 3 samurai machine, equal parts style, fury, and moral ambiguity. The plot's deceptively simple. 3 very different samurai, one cynical, one idealistic, one just plain wild, find themselves thrown together by chance, standing up for exploited peasants against a brutal local lord. What follows is a relentless, kinetic barrage of double crosses, bloody skirmishes, and unlikely alliances. Gosha's camera never lets you relax. Every frame is charged with the tension of shifting loyalties and the threat of sudden violence. What makes 3 Outlaw Samurai such a touchstone is its embrace of the reluctant hero and the honor among thieves dynamic. These aren't noble warriors out for glory. They're world-weary survivors, drawn into justice almost against their will. Western directors stole this vibe wholesale. Just watch the good, the bad, and the ugly, or the wild bunch, and try not to spot the fingerprints. Gosha's pacing and use of close-ups were also a huge influence on action directors far beyond Japan. But here's the kicker. Beneath all the swordplay and swagger, 3 Outlaw Samurai is a sly critique of hero worship and authority. No one here gets out clean. If you want to see how ragtag outlaws became cinema's most irresistible heroes, this film is the real blueprint. Sword of the Beast, 1965. Some samurai run toward glory, others run for their lives. Sword of the Beast is all about the latter. Here, Hideo Gosha gives us Genosuke, a fugitive samurai hunted after killing his corrupt clan leader during a failed rebellion. The landscape he flees through is wild, untamed, and crawling with enemies. Think of it as the ultimate man-on-the-run story, done with sword and sweat instead of 6 shooters and spurs. What sets this film apart is its modern sensibility. Genosuke isn't just running from his pursuers, he's running from a whole world built on lies and betrayal. Every encounter along the way, outcasts, mercenaries, and fellow rebels, becomes a test of trust, cynicism, and the very possibility of redemption. Gosha paints his hero not as a noble warrior, but as a desperate survivor, questioning the very meaning of loyalty and honor. Western directors saw the appeal instantly. The outlaw hero cut off from society, fighting both his own past and a ruthless system, would become a staple of revisionist westerns for decades. The film's gritty style, moral complexity, and open-ended finish gave later filmmakers a whole new set of tools for storytelling. Sword of the Beast is fast, fierce, and uncompromising, a survival story that swaps glory for grit and leaves you asking if there's any place left for honor in a broken world. In short, this is the Western you didn't know was hiding inside a samurai flick. Samurai Wolf, 1966. If you think the samurai genre can't get down and dirty, Samurai Wolf is here to snarl in your face. Hideo Gosha ditches the old-school formality and delivers a film that's lean, raw, and pulsing with danger. At the center is Kiba, part drifter, part animal, all attitude, played by the intense Isao Natsuyagi. He's got a mane of wild hair, a chip on his shoulder, and a habit of slicing through problems and people with brutal efficiency. The setup is classic Western. A mysterious loner stumbles into a small town, tangled up in betrayal, murder, and a missing cache of gold. But Gosha flips the script. Kiba isn't out to save the day. He's just trying to survive. The film's violence is sudden and feral. The action shot with a handheld energy that would later inspire gritty westerns and even American crime movies. There's no room for honor here, only instinct and street smarts. Western directors took notice of Gosha's style. The close-quarters brawls, frenetic editing, and morally bankrupt world echo through the anti-heroes of the 1970s. Kiba paved the way for protagonists who don't wear white hats and aren't interested in your redemption story. They just want to make it out alive. Samurai Wolf is the kind of film that chews up tradition and spits out pure cinematic adrenaline. If you want your samurai served rare and bloody, this one's for you. Samurai Wolf, 2967. Sequels are supposed to be bigger and bolder, right? Samurai Wolf 2 doesn't just raise the stakes, it swings for the jugular. Gosha brings back Kiba, his wild-eyed anti-hero, and throws him into an even murkier mess of treachery, greed, and moral quicksand. The world is even rougher, the enemies more devious, and the betrayals cut closer to the bone. There's no rest for the wicked or the wolf. This time, Kiba's drawn into the feud between rival gangsters and an enigmatic female swordmaster, making the lines between hero and villain blurrier than ever. The sword fights are more vicious, the pace is relentless, and the violence, if possible, is even more unflinching. Gosha doesn't just repeat himself, he amplifies everything that made the first film a revelation. It's survival of the meanest, and nobody's playing by the rules. Western filmmakers ate this up. The grimy settings, double and triple crosses, and loner protagonist would become hallmarks of neo-westerns and hard-boiled crime flicks. And let's be real, the sight of a hero who's just as lost and damaged as everyone else in the story, that's the DNA of every post-1960s anti-hero. From Eastwood to McQueen, Samurai Wolf 2 is raw, ruthless, and a whole lot of fun. A reminder that sometimes the only code worth following is your own. Samurai Banners, 1969. If Samurai Banners feels epic, that's because it is. Hiroshi Inagaki, the man behind the legendary Samurai trilogy, delivers a sprawling historical drama that's part chess match, part war movie, and all spectacle. Toshiro Mifune plays the famed strategist Yamamoto Kansuki, a man so cunning and ambitious, you wonder if he's planning to conquer more than just Japan. The film's sweeping battle scenes, elaborate costumes, and dense political intrigue would make even Kurosawa jealous. Here's where things get interesting. Samurai Banners isn't just about swords and glory. It's about the cost of ambition, the loneliness of leadership, and the way power corrupts even the noblest of men. Mifune's Kansuke is magnetic, a master manipulator who seems to see 10 moves ahead, yet can't outrun his own fate. Inagaki fills the screen with color, movement, and the sense that history is being written one brutal decision at a time. For Western directors, Samurai Banners was a goldmine of inspiration. The sprawling cast, epic scale, and tragic arc would show up in everything from Once Upon a Time in the West to The Godfather. The film's willingness to ask hard questions, what is a hero willing to sacrifice for greatness, set the template for the morally complex westerns of the late 1960s and beyond. If you want your samurai with a side of Shakespearean tragedy, Don't miss this banner-waving classic. Samurai Spy, 1965. Shaken, not stirred, Samurai Spy is what happens when you inject a healthy dose of Cold War paranoia into the Jida Igeki formula. Shinoda's film swaps honor for espionage, trading battlefield heroics for a swirling web of double agents, shifting allegiances, and shadowy conspiracies. The hero, Sasuke Sarutobi, isn't a noble warrior. He's a reluctant, world-weary spy who'd rather just be left alone. Think Toshiro Mifune crossed with James Bond, and a dash of Kafka. What makes Samurai Spy a standout isn't just the intrigue, though there's plenty of that. It's the mood, moody, overcast visuals, and a sense that everyone's watching, waiting, lying. You feel the tension in every glance and half-whispered threat. Western filmmakers obsessed over this atmospheric paranoia, translating it into their own post-war noir westerns and political thrillers. But Samurai Spy goes further, questioning whether anyone can stay clean in a world built on secrets. Shinoda turns the genre inside out, showing the samurai as just another pawn in a game too big to win. The fights are swift and almost accidental. The victories, pyrrhic at best. In a genre built on certainties, Samurai Spy is all uncertainty, all unease. And that's what made it a game changer for directors looking to break the mold. If you like your heroes flawed, your stories tangled, and your genre films infused with existential dread, this is the samurai flick that'll haunt your dreams. The Great Killing, 1964. The title says it all. The Great Killing is a massacre, and nobody leaves unscathed. Eiichi Kudo takes the Band of Rebels formula and lights a fuse under it, producing a film that's relentless, radical, and absolutely furious. Imagine the Wild Bunch if Peckinpah had grown up on a steady diet of political upheaval and samurai bloodbaths. At its core, the story is simple. A group of outcasts plots to assassinate a corrupt official and spark a revolution. But Kudo loads every scene with tension and paranoia. Friends could be enemies. Victory could be a death sentence. The action is raw and unglamorous, every sword stroke a desperate bid for survival. Kudo's camera rarely blinks. It forces you to watch as ideals are tested, alliances shattered, and the price of rebellion tallied in blood. What made this film so irresistible to Western directors was its bleak realism and willingness to question authority. Gone are the romanticized duels. In their place, a hard look at what it costs to fight the system. This is the Dirty Dozen formula, done with blades instead of bullets, and the echoes would be heard in American cinema for decades. The Great Killing is less a film than a call to arms. If you want to understand where the gritty, morally ambiguous westerns of the 1970s found their edge, start right here, with revolution, betrayal, and the courage to swing back. The Snow Woman, 1968. Every samurai list needs a touch of the supernatural, and The Snow Woman delivers it in style. Tokuzo. Tanaka's haunting adaptation of the classic ghost story isn't just about swordplay. It's about fate, forbidden love, and the shadows that stalk even the bravest warrior. When a young woodcutter encounters the mysterious Yukiana, or Snow Woman, his life becomes a delicate dance between romance and doom. Tanaka's direction is all atmosphere and dread, with visuals as crisp and chilling as a winter night. The supernatural elements are never just window dressing. They're woven into the fabric of the story, exploring themes of honor, temptation, and the price of breaking taboos. For Western directors, this film was a revelation. You could blend folklore and realism, fear and hope, and still tell a story as powerful as any showdown at high noon. The Snow Woman is especially influential for its mood. There's a lingering melancholy, a sense that some battles are unwinnable and some destinies can't be escaped. The westerns that followed borrowed this vibe, giving us haunted gunslingers and doomed lovers under endless skies. The lesson? Sometimes the scariest enemy isn't another man, but the curse you carry in your own heart. If you like your samurai stories with a ghostly twist and a healthy dose of existential angst, The Snow Woman is the chilly classic you've been searching for. Zatoichi Meets Yojimbo, 1970. Call this one the samurai equivalent of an all-star smackdown. Zatoichi Meets Yojimbo isn't just a crossover. It's two titans of cinema thrown into the same blood-soaked ring, with chaos, comedy, and carnage to spare. Okamoto pits Shintaro Katsu's Zatoichi, the blind swordsman, against Toshiro Mifune's unnamed Ronin, a sly echo of his Yojimbo persona, and the result is pure, pulpy magic. What's brilliant here is the clash of personalities and styles. Zatoichi is humble but sly. Mifune's Ronin is gruff, wily, and unpredictable. They circle each other, sometimes allies, often adversaries, always a hair's breadth from slicing the air. Okamoto plays it for tension and laughs, poking fun at the legends while delivering fight scenes that are as inventive as they are brutal. This is the samurai film as meta-commentary, a genre aware of its own legacy and unafraid to have fun with it. Western directors couldn't resist the mashup energy. The Versus movie, the self-aware anti-hero face-off, the sense that legends can collide and still come out looking cool. All these tropes would become staples of Hollywood, from superhero movies to buddy cop flicks. And the film's ending? It doesn't just deliver on action. It leaves you wanting more, hinting at a world where every hero has his match. If you want the ultimate samurai showdown, the kind that inspired 1,000 cinematic duels, Zatoichi meets Yojimbo is the meeting of giants that proves the genre can still surprise, amuse, and electrify.